Good morning, everyone. Today we'll start our new chapter, that is Constitutional Design, chapter number 2 of Political Science. The Constitution of South Africa is the supreme law of the Republic of South Africa. It was promulgated by President Nelson Mandela on 18 December 1996 and came into effect on 4th of February 1997, replacing the interim constitution of 1993. Since 1996, the constitution has been amended by 17 Amendments Act. So my first question is, when was the constitution written in South Africa? The South African Constitution was drafted in terms of Chapter 5 of the Interim Constitution Act 200 of 1993. On May 8, 1996, the Constitution Assembly completed 2 years of work on a draft of a final constitution intended to replace the Interim Constitution of 1993 by the year 1999. So my first topic is Democratic Constitution in South Africa. Prior to 1994, the South African government followed a system of apartheid. Apartheid means racial discrimination. This led to racial segregation between the white, black, colored, and Indians. Under the apartheid, the division of people was on the basis of their skin color. This system was oppressive towards all non-whites. They were not allowed to live in areas inhabited by the whites. They were not allowed to use same transportation as the whites, the same hotel, hospitals, school, colleges, etc. Nelson Mandela, the leader of African National Congress, fought against the white South African government his entire life. He was imprisoned in 1964 and he spent 28 years in rigorous imprisonment but continued opposing the apartheid regime. From 1950, the black and Indians under the umbrella of the African National Congress led by Nelson Mandela fought against apartheid. Mandela was supported by some white South Africans who spoke against unjust rule. Finally, on the 26th of April 1994, the new national flag of the Republic of South Africa was hoisted, making it one of the latest democracies in the world. The apartheid government came to an end, giving way of the formation of a multi-party and multiracial government. A constitution was drafted based on universal values that promoted democracy, social justice, and human rights. The South Africans called themselves Rainbow Nation because after apartheid ended, they accommodated people of all colors in their fold. Our next topic is struggle against apartheid. The United Nations has been concerned with the issue of racial discrimination since its inception. The United Nations General Assembly adopted on 19th of November 1946 during its first session a resolution declaring that it is in the higher interest of humanity to put an immediate end to religious and so-called racial persecution and discrimination, and calling on governments and responsible authority to conform both to the letter and to the spirit of Charter of the United Nations and to take the most prompt and energetic step to that end. Racial discrimination became one of the main items on the United Nations agenda after African nation attained independence and after the massacre in South Africa on 1st of March 1960. The whole world opinion to the perils of apartheid and racial discrimination. In 1963, the Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, which led to the International Convention in 1965. It proclaimed the International Year for Action to Combat Racial Discrimination in 1971 and the 3 decades for action to combat racism and racial discrimination. The United Nations also organized 2 World Conferences Against Racial Discrimination, more recently in the year 2001. The World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination in South Africa. So my very important question is, mention briefly about the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Here is the answer. Apartheid was the name of a system of racial discrimination imposed by white Europeans on South Africa during the 17th and 18th century. The trading companies from Europe occupied it with force and became the local rulers. The system of apartheid divided the people and labeled them on the basis of the color of their skin. The natives of South Africa were black in color. They made up about three-fourths of the population and were called blacks. Beside these two groups, white and blacks, there were people of mixed races who were called colored, and white minority formed the government and followed the policy of apartheid. They treated non-white as inferiors. The non-white did not have voting rights. The apartheid system was particularly oppressive for the blacks. They were forbidden from living in white areas. They could work in white areas only if they had permit. Train, buses, taxis, hotel, hospital, schools, colleges, etc. were all separate for the whites and the blacks. They could not even visit the churches where the white worshipped. The black could not form association or protest against the terrible treatment. Since 1950, the black, colored, and the Indian fought against this oppressive system. They launched protest marches and strike. The party called African National Congress (ANC) led the struggle, which soon took momentum. As the protests against the apartheid system had increased, it became difficult for the white government to control the blacks. The white regime changed its policy. Discriminatory laws were replaced, ban of political parties and restrictions on the media were lifted. Nelson Mandela was set free. Finally, at the midnight of 26 April 1994, the new national flag of the Republic of South Africa was unfurled, marking the newly born democracy in the world. Apartheid government came to an end and a multiracial government was formed. Next topic is need of a constitution, or we can say that why the constitution is so important in South Africa. Parliament passed the Constitution Act in 1996. The constitution contained the most important rules of our political system. It protects the right of the people inside the country and it explains their obligation. It defines the institution of South Africa, what their powers are, how they may use their powers. All South Africans must know about the constitution and what it means for them. So here are some important points related to this particular. The constitution is the supreme law. South Africa is a constitutional democracy. This means the constitution is the highest law of the land. Parliament cannot pass a law which goes against the constitution. No person, not even the president, can go against it. The court and the government must also make sure what they do is constitutional. The constitution itself is protected because it is much more difficult to change than any other law. The most important parts of the constitution can only be changed if 75% of the members of the National Assembly and 6 of the 9 provinces in the National Council of Provinces agree. The actual value of the Constitution: human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the promotion of human rights and freedom. Next is non-racialism. This means that there may be no discrimination on the basis of color. The rule of law and the Constitution as the supreme law, which means everything must be done according to the law and the Constitution is the highest law. A vote for every adult children, one national voters roll for all citizens, or we can say the regular election and a multi-party system of democratic government on the basis of this system. The previous Constitution of South Africa. The South Africa Act 1909, an act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, unified 4 British colonies: Cape Colony, Transvaal Colony, Orange River Colony, and Natal Colony, into the Union of South Africa, a self-governing dominion. The Republic of South Africa Constitution Act 1961 transformed the Union into a republic, replacing the Queen with a state president but otherwise leaving the system of government unchanged. An integral part of the negotiation to end apartheid in South Africa was the creation of new constitution. One of the major disputes issued were the process by which such a constitution would be adopted. The African National Congress ANC insisted that it should be drawn up by a democratically elected constituent assembly, while the governing National Party feared that the rights of the minorities would not be protected in such a process and proposed instead that the constitution be negotiated by consensus between the parties and then put to a referendum. Formal negotiations began in December 1991 and the convention of a democratic South Africa. The parties agree on a process whereby a negotiated transitional constitution would provide for an elected constituent assembly to draw up a permanent constitution. The interim constitution provided for a parliament made up of two houses, a 400-member National Assembly directly elected by party list proportional representation, and a 90-member Senate in which each of the 9 provinces were represented by 10 senators elected by the provincial legislature. The Constituent Assembly consisted of both houses sitting together and was responsible for drawing up a final constitution within 2 years. The adoption of a new constitutional text required a two-thirds supermajority in the Constitutional Assembly as well as the support of the two-thirds of the senators on matters relating to provisional government. If a two-thirds majority could not be obtained, a constitutional text could be adopted by a simple majority and then put to a national referendum in which 60% support would be required for it to pass. The Constitutional Assembly engaged in a massive public participation program to solicit views and suggestions from the public. As the deadline As the deadline, the Constitutional Assembly engaged in a massive public participation program for the adoption of constitutional text approached. However, many issues were hashed out in private meetings between the parties' representatives. On 8th of May 1996, a new text was adopted with the support of 86% of the members of the Assembly, but in the first certification judgment delivered on 6th of September 1996, the Constitutional Code refused to certify this text. The Constitutional Code identified a number of provisions that did not comply with the constitutional principle. The Constitutional Assembly reconvened on 11th October, adopting an amended constitutional text containing many changes related to the previous text. Some deal with the court reason for non-certification, while others listed up the text. The amended text were returned to the Constitutional Court to be certified, which the court duly did its second certification judgment delivered on 4th of December, and it was brought into operation on 4th February 1997 by a presidential proclamation except for financial provision which were delayed until up to 1st January 1998. Our next topic is making of Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India was not prepared in haste, but the process of the evolution of the Constitution began many decades before India became independent in 1947. The process continued unabated since it originated in the freedom struggle till a new constitution was drafted after prolonged debates and discussion in the Constituent Assembly. On 26 January 1950 was a red-letter day in the history of India. On that day, the written Constitution of India came into operation. Because in 1930, the day has been celebrated as the Day of Complete Independence throughout India by millions of people, it is very benefiting to declare such a historic day as the day of operation of the Constitution of Republic of India. The Constitution of India was the longest written constitution having the best elements of all the existing constitution up to that date. The Constitution of India is the modern scared test of the contemporary India. It reflects the new aspiration and values of people of India and testifies how the people of India are the supreme master in all matters concerning the welfare of Indians. The Constitution of India related to the merging nations framed the constitution in its present form. After a throughout debate and discussion of each proposal, the nationalists consciously popularized the concept of parliamentary democracy, civil liberties, social and economic justice, which happen to be the most basic tenets of the constitution. Bipin Chandra rightly marks when the Constitution 1950 adopted a parliamentary form of government with a cabinet led by a prime minister, it was not, as is commonly supposed, the British Parliament that it was emulating. It was formalizing nationalist practices which the people were already familiar with. Even the spirit of democracy was familiarized by the national movement. Bipin Chandra correctly pointed out this found expression in widespread mass participation. It ensured a place for adult franchise after independence. A view is in circulation that the British initiated a modern responsible constitutional government in India, and the constitution was merely the accumulation of the series of initiatives made by them in 1861, 1892, 1809, 1919 and 1935. This view is not totally correct as the British government conceded reluctantly only partially the demands of the leaders of the national movement and tried to reduce the intensity of the movement as a last resort for time to time. So my question is, how constitution is found? The Constituent Assembly of India that drafted the Indian Constitution had 299 members. The Constituent Assembly of India had adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949, but it came into effect on 26 January 1950. Again, who is the father of Indian Constitution? Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. And also one more question arises, who wrote our Constitution? So there is no one person who has written the Constitution of India. Normally the credit for drafting the Constitution is given to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, as he was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly. So my next question is, importance of Constitution. A country is run by the government, judicial body, its people, and the most importantly by the Constitution. The Constitution serves as the backbone of the country. Without it, the law and jurisdiction will not hold up and fall apart in no time, but they are meant to stand strong. The Constitution is the embodiment of fundamental regulation and principle according to which the country, state, and its people are supposed to work. The term constitution got its name as the world constitution means accumulation, gathering of various aspects. Similarly, the constitution we are talking about also is an accumulation of many things that make up the organization of the legal body of any nation. All the rules and principles that are to be established are worked up and wrote down in one place and making all the things one single crafted manuscript. The document formed after this whole procedure is known as Constitution. But despite all of this information, we still have a question in our mind that why is the Constitution important? So let us discuss further on the topic. A constitution is a set for the country to develop successfully. Thus, any added improvement in the constitution will thrive up to this. Thanks to our Indian Constitution, the power of the government bodies flow in a certain path. As for the Indian Constitution, it distributes the power horizontally throughout the three major institutional bodies of the Indian jurisdiction, that is the Parliament, Executive and the Judiciary, where the Parliament acts as the supreme body and all the bills and amendments passed down with their consent, which will help you to understand the working of the Constitution and will help you to conclude why is the Constitution important. Here are some steps involved in the execution of bills. First, any bill is first presented in the executive houses of the country. As for the case of India, these houses are known as Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Second point, once the bill gets approval of two-thirds of the members of both the houses, it is passed to the parliament, and when it is passed, it is sent to the president. Usually, the president signs the document, but in some cases, if he or she does not feel like passing it at the time, they have the power to send it back with a suitable reason. Fourth point, once edited, the referendum, the bill is again sent for the approval of the president of the country, and this time they are bound to pass this bill. And at last, if there is not any answer heard from the side of the president till 15 days, the bill is supposed to be passed and become official. So here are some important factors related to the constitution. The constitution is embodiment in a written instrument which serve the rules of a political and social organization. These rules and regulation lay down the base of the nation so that it can run without any sort of issue and disputes. The constitution forms the basic structure of any government. The constitution of any country is important because of the fact that it lays down all the legal and cultural aspect under which its people and the government bodies will be governed, and that too when there are foreign interaction in the personal affairs govern the powers distribution. The constitution defined the powers of each organs and let everyone related to a country know about the power and governmental and legal body has. It demarks the responsibility of each of the party, whether it is a governmental institution, companies of the country, or the masses of the nation. The constitution helps to regulate the relationship between the government and the people in such a manner that no one part can mistreating the power in any way possible. The actual goals of a country. The constitution lays down the national goals of any country. By nation goals, we mean to say that any aspiring objective that a country has. As every country has some point to reach which is planned in their mind, therefore the constitution will help to reach goals such as democracy, secularism, socialism, and national integration. Basic rights. The constitution of a country guarantees some rights and provision for any individual or group of people on behalf of which they can assure their well-being and dignity. It helps the people of the country to avail of all the basic rights which they are deemed for. Power transfer at the time of national emergency. One of the things that make the constitution a really important document of a country is the fact that it controls the transfer of power at the time of the national emergencies. By national emergencies, we mean a disaster that can wipe out some of the part of the nation or can damage any part of the nation in a very severe manner, civil war, breakdown, etc. Our next topic is drafting the Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India lays down the framework democrating fundamental political code, structure, procedure, powers and duties of government institution and set out fundamental rights, directive principle and the duties of citizen. It is the longest written constitution of any country on earth. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee, is widely considered to be its chief architect. It imparts constitutional supremacy since it was created by a constitutional assembly rather than parliament and was adopted by its people with a declaration in its preamble. Parliament cannot override the constitution. It also adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 26th of November 1949 and became effective on 26 January 1950. The Constitution replaced the Government of India Act 1935 as the country's fundamental governing document, and the Dominion of India became the Republic of India to ensure constitutional authority. Its framer repealed prior act of the British Parliament in Article 395, and India celebrated its constitution on 26 January as Republic Day. The Constitution declares India a socialist and secular democratic republic, assuring its citizens which based on equality, liberty, justice, to promote fraternity. Or at last we can say that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is the father of the Indian Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was a wise constitutional expert. He had studied the constitution of about 60 countries. Ambedkar is recognized as the father of Constitution of India in the Constitution Assembly, a member of the drafting committee. According to T.T. Krishnamachari said, Mr. President, sir, I am one of those in the House who have listened to Dr. Ambedkar very carefully. I am aware of the amount of work and enthusiasm that he has brought to bear on the work of drafting the Constitution. At the same time, I do realize that that amount of attention that was necessary for the purpose of drafting a constitution so important to us at this moment has not been given to it by the drafting committee. The House is perhaps aware that of the 7 members nominated by you, one had resigned from the House and was replaced, one died and was not replaced. One has away in Africa and his place was not filled up, and another person was engaged in state affairs, and there was to void to that extent. On 21st February 1948, the drafting committee submitted the draft Constitution of India to the President of the Constituent Assembly. 4 months earlier, the committee had received a draft constitution prepared by the Assembly Constitutional Advisor B.N. Rao. Rao draft reflected the decision taken by the Assembly on the report of various committees. According to this draft, it consists of 315 articles organized around 18 parts and 8 schedules. It touched upon a range of topics that one would expect in a constitutional document. It is really very important to note that this draft was the first blueprint of the Indian Constitution that was publicly available. On 4th November 1948, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, chairman of the drafting committee, formally introduced the draft in the assembly. Every member had a copy along with the set of amendments recommended by drafting committee in light of comments and suggestions it received. On 15 November 1948, the Assembly took up article by article all the provision of the draft for debate and discussion. It considered, deliberated, and took decision on numerous amendments moved by individual members of the Assembly and the drafting Constitution. There are all over 12 articles. This process went up till October 17, after which the drafting committee revised the draft based on the decision of the Assembly and produced a second version on 14th November, which it put to the Assembly for another reading. It is really important to note that Assembly deliberation over the draft constitution, finally it was adopted by on 26th of November 1949 and it came into effect on 26th of January 1950. So my question is, what was the total time taken to frame and write the Indian Constitution? The Constituent Assembly met for the first time on 6th of December 1946 and was a partly elected and partly nominated body with a strength of 389 members in undivided India. 296 of them were to be elected, while the remaining 93 were to be nominated by princely state. After partition, the strength reduced to 299 members and the strength of nominated members whittled down to 70, and elected representatives were 299. Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was the temporary chairman of the House following the French practice, and the House elected Babu Rajendra Prasad as the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. The House met over 2 years, 11 months and 18 days, with 24 January 1950 being the last day of the House. The House met over 11 sessions and considered the constitution of over 60 countries before drafting our own constitution. This entire exercise cost rupees 64 lakhs for the whole. Next topic is features of Indian Constitution. It is the lengthiest and the longest constitution in the world. It has 395 articles and 12 schedules. Also about 90 articles have been added since 1951 and there have been more than 100 amendments. Next point. The basis of the basic structures such as federal scheme, judiciary, governors and emergency powers, public service commission, administrative details, etc. are the part of drawn from different sources according to the Act of India Act 1935. Federal system and unitary features. The federal features of governance are a dual system of government that is center and state. The division of powers between the executive, judiciary, and legislature, which are the three organs of the state, supremacy of the constitution, independent judiciary. Next point, parliamentary form of government. The Indian Constitution choose the parliamentary form of government. In a parliamentary form of government, executive is part of the legislature and there is a collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to the legislature. The Indian Constitution has a power balance between parliamentary and judicial supremacy. The Supreme Court has the power of judicial review vide Article 13, 32 and 136. As per the Indian Constitution, a single system of judiciary prevails in India. The Supreme Court is at the top, the High Court at the state level, and district and other subordinate court are below and are subject to the supervision of the High Courts. The Indian Constitution is a combination or a blend of rigidity and flexibility. As per Article 368, some provision can be amended by a special majority of the Parliament, that is, two-thirds majority of the members of each house present and voting, and majority which is more than 50% of the total membership of each house. So my question is, how is the judicial system of India independent? The following provision make the judicial system independent. A particular system of appointment of judges of Supreme Court and High Court on the basis of impeachment procedure for the removal of the judges. The charge of salaries, pension and allowances of judges of Supreme Court upon the consolidated funds of India. Power to punish for contempt of itself. The ban on the practice of judges after retirement. Next topic is preamble. Preamble declared India to be a socially secular and democratic republic. The main objectives stated by the preamble are to secure justice, liberty, equality to all citizens and promote fraternity to maintain unity and integrity of the nation. How many words, my next question is, how many words are in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? So preamble has 63 words, out of which 32 words are important to keep in mind, which is based on justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief and faith. My next question is, who designed preamble of Indian Constitution? The preamble of Indian Constitution is based on the objective resolution drafted and moved by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru on 13th of December 1946 and passed by Constituent Assembly. Our next topic is fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are those rights which are essential for intellectual, moral and spiritual development of individual. As these rights are fundamental or non-essential for existence and all-around development of individual, hence it is called as fundamental rights based on the Article 12 to 35 of the Constitution of India. Here, there are 6 fundamental rights recognized by the Indian Constitution. Right to equality, which is based on Article 14 to 18. Right to freedom, which is again based on Article 19 to 22. Right against exploitations, Articles 23 to 24. Right to freedom of religion, Articles 25 to 28. Cultural and educational rights, Articles 29 to 30. And right to constitutional remedies between Articles 32 to 35. Right to equality. Right to equality includes equality before the law, the prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, gender, place of birth, equality of opportunity in matters of employment, and abolition of untouchability and abolition of titles. Right to freedom. It includes freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association or union or cooperative movements, and right to practice any profession or occupation. Right against exploitation, prohibits all forms of forced labor, child labor, and trafficking of human beings. Right to freedom of religion, which includes freedom of consequence on the based on the free profession, practice, propagation of religion, freedom of manage religious affairs, freedom from certain taxes, and freedom from religious instruction in certain educational institute. Cultural and educational right. It preserves the right of any section of citizen to conserve their culture, language, or script, and right of minorities to establish and administer educational institution of their choice. And at last, right to constitutional remedies, which is based on enforcement of fundamental rights. Or at last, we can say that fundamental rights for Indians have also been aimed to overturning the inequalities of pre-independence social practices. Specifically, they have also been used to abolish untouchability and thus prohibit discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, gender, place of birth, etc. They also forbid trafficking of human beings and also force labor, a crime. They also protect cultural and educational rights of religious and linguistic minorities by allowing them to preserve their language and also establish and administer their own education institution. And the last point is UAF, Universal Adult Franchise. Universal Adult Franchise gives the right to vote to all adult citizens, those who are 18 or above, regardless of wealth, income, gender, social status, race, subject only to relatively minor exception. The exact meaning of adult franchisee means all citizens of the country should have the right to vote on the basis of their age, that is 18 or an above 18. Thank you everyone. Or in a simple manner, we can say that it means that the right to vote should be given to all citizens without the discrimination of caste, class, color, religion, or gender. It is based on equality, which is basic principle of democracy. Thank you, everyone.